I'm the kind of guy that when I go to Goodwill, I'm constantly buying science textbooks because I want to see how that publisher laid out their content. I want to see what questions they chose to ask on that same topic that I've taught a bunch of times. In other words, I want to learn from what other people have done. And so, assuming that any of you are similar to me in that way, that you benefit from seeing what somebody else has done, I want to show you my workflow, specifically how I plan my Canvas content, my lesson content. Hi, I'm Evan. Welcome to the Canvas Tutorial Show. Let's get started. So I want to take you into my course and just kind of give you a tour of what I do and how I've designed things. And maybe that'll give you some ideas for your own course. And so one of the first things I want to show is my dashboard. Notice that each of my courses have a very similar design. I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th. I've actually used the same course card for each one, except I've used a different color. Now I've color coded my course cards because I want to be able to quickly and easily identify which one's which. And so by going up into the little 3-dot menu here, I could even choose what specific color the text is, so that even on my calendar it will reflect those colors, that I always know which is which. And this is very helpful. So there you go, you can see blue, red, green, blue, red, green. This is very helpful because anytime you can shave off of your workflow, that's time gained. And so I know exactly which course I need to go into without having to look at it very deeply, just by knowing the color. So I'm going to go into my 8th grade course here. And you'll notice that my homepage is very simple. I've got my banner, I've got some buttons, I've got a welcome video, as well as my schedule. Now, we're about 2 weeks into the school year. I'm about to delete these two things so that it's not even necessary for the students to have it anymore. So I'm going to go and do that right now, actually. Why? Because this was important at the beginning. I wanted them to feel welcome in my class, and et cetera, et cetera. But now that they've been using it, they don't need it anymore. And that video was uploaded on YouTube. So there we go. Now it's even more simple for the student. This is all the information they need. They need to know where to get to the Zoom session. They need to know how to start here, and there's their schedule. And so that's about it. Now, moving into my modules, and I'm just going to click start here. I want to show you how I line mine out. Now, even though this says Unit 1, this isn't my first module of the year. Instead, this is. And what happened is that after I finished this week, I dragged this module down so that my current module is always on the top. And that just makes it easy for students because they don't have to dig down and look for it. They do have to look down into the module to find what content they need or what day it is, but they don't have to search through a bunch of modules. This is helpful when you kind of do a week by week basis. And I'm doing a unit plus week by week mishmash where I will identify what the unit is, but then what week it is. So if we go into the next week and we're still on Unit 1, then that's what I'll do. And so when this unit is done, I will just drag this down so that it's sequential, and then I'll add my new module on top. In order to add the new module, though, all I have to do is duplicate this template. I'll just click here and I'll click duplicate. And that gives me a quick template to work from. Notice though that there are no assignments in here. If there were any assignments in here, maybe assignments that I would use often, that kind of thing, it's going to create copies of them. And so that can be very helpful if you use the same kind of assignment and you know that you're going to do that. But I don't do it that way. I just use my text headers there. And in fact, there are some text headers that I need to add to my template. I'm going to delete this now because it would make it a lot easier for me the next time. And I've been doing this a lot lately where I have to create these manually, and that's just not worked. Manually is not the best. And so a text header that I use all the time is live together, and I always indent it. And I'll drag that up into Monday, and I'll just show you real quick an example of this. Another one that I use is independent. And then sometimes I use asynchronous, and I'll show you why I use those in just a second. And so looking into I got to put my module back. I got to stop doing that. There you go. Looking into this module, stop it. There you go. Okay, it's being silly now. I'm gonna refresh. Things are being silly. Okay, looking into this first module, I want you to notice a few things. So you can see here I use a day structure: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so on and so forth. But inside that, I indent and then I add whether we're doing it together or separate or independent. As well, is there anything that I expect them to do asynchronously? In other words, it's homework, and I wish we just used the word homework, but that's okay. And so this is independent, this is live together. But notice that I don't always keep it the same way. Here I go independent first, then live together. Down here I have live together first, and then independent. My students always know what we're doing though, because I have 2 or 3 of these schedule documents, pages, that I then just insert multiple times. I don't duplicate them, I insert them. And so all I have to do is insert this as the first page of that subsection. So notice that I have it here. So Thursday, this is our schedule for today. Wednesday is an asynchronous day, so it has the asynchronous schedule. Tuesday, there's that schedule, so on and so forth. Okay, there's that schedule. So that's always the very first page that I have them do. And I just have 3 pages: asynchronous, live, then together. Live, then independent, and then independent, then live. Those are really the 3 styles that I follow. Directly after that, I have a page that is my learning essential question. That's my essential question. So let's go ahead and work on a Friday a little bit, okay? So Friday, I'm going to go ahead and publish that. I'm going to change my name from Friday to Friday. And tomorrow we're going to draw how to draw conclusions. That's what we're going to be focusing on tomorrow. Okay, and so I like to give kind of the title of that lesson there. I don't know if they pay attention to that. And then I can go ahead and put my text header. Since I already have this down here, I'm just going to grab it for now. I'm going to cheat just a little bit. And there's live together. There's independent. I know I'll use those ones at least. And I like to keep those indented right there. Now I'm going to put the schedule. Tomorrow we'll start with independent work. And so I'm going to go to assignment, and then page, and then I'm going to come down here to my schedules. I have tried live, independent, live. I don't know, but independent live is where they actually do the work first, and then we zoom together at the end. What I have discovered though is that I do need to make them come on to Zoom, and then we just blank out everything, and then they can work for 10-15 minutes, and then we go ahead and do our live session together. The very first time I did it, I said, okay, everybody got on. I said, okay, go ahead and get off and come back in 20 minutes at this time. About 80% of them did, but I did actually lose some students that didn't come back. And so I was like, oh, we're just going to have to get on together, and you can just not be on Zoom but still be connected. So there's my schedule. I like to use indents a little bit so that it's just easy to see on the students, and I put that between the date and our first thing so they know when they open it up what to do. And I'm going to click in here real fast just to show you one more thing. And so on this, notice that I use some icons. I try to use the same icons all the time because I'm trying to give my students visual clues of what we're doing. But then I also keep it very, very simple. Here, I've increased the font size so that's acting like a subtitle. Yes, there are titles of the page, but I don't think they pay attention to those. So I like to put titles directly on the page, as well as my time. I just did a dotted line separation there because I wanted to show some separation. The goal is getting them to see the content, okay? And then a few instructions. But the thing I wanted to show you here is this graphic, and I just created this on Canva. Okay, and this was just a click next. I keep this on every single one of my pages, and I'll show you when we get to the final page how I tell them to stop content. Okay, so since we're going to do independent then live, so then this needs to go there. Okay. And what am I going to have them actually do? So the first thing I do is I grab whatever my nearest similar assignment or page is. And so since I always put my essential question, I'm going to grab that one and I'm going to duplicate it. And then I'm going to grab it and drag it down. And now I'm going to change that from learning to observe to, it's a new lesson. 1.2 actually went over several days, so it doesn't have to be that day or just one day. How to draw conclusions. Okay, we've been looking at how those steps to discovering things. And I can click in there. And I'm going to go ahead and change my essential question. Notice again, super simple. A small piece of content, but it's clear. It tells them what it is. I don't just have words on here without purpose. This right here is just a table. Okay, it's a one-cell table that I've set a padding to. That's the padding is the space around the text, and I've set it to like 40, I think, like that. I use again standard icons. All these icons I got from Flat Icon, and they're all the free pick ones, so that you just have to reference it once. And so, what's my essential question is, how do we draw conclusions in science? And save. That page is done. Notice that because I duplicated it, my next button is still there. Okay, and we have my essential question. So when I start my lesson, we always come here first. I ask a student to read it out, which is a great way for them to check, for me to check to see if they're paying attention and not playing a video game with their Zoom screen off. But this is going to be independent, so they'll actually read this on their own during independent work, and that's okay. But you could do either one. Since I'm going to go independent first, a couple things that I tend to have them do is do a reading and or a watch or both. And so I'm going to grab this watch, and I'm going to duplicate, and I'm going to bring it down. And notice that I've used some numbering. So 1.3, I need to change that actually. 1.4 now. And watch, they're going to watch a video. And so again, it's how to draw conclusions. If I can spell it. There you go. How to draw conclusions. And I use both the numbers at the front. That's going to give them that flow of what lesson we're in. Also, when I look at my pages and my assignments, it gives me that flow. So, because it's going to group them together because it does it alphabetically. But then I always put these key words here. I see some that will use emojis. Getemoji.com is a good use of that. And that's totally usable. I think it works, but I just like to use words. It also gives me a lot of flexibility because I know that they'll know what I'm talking about if I use watch, if I use lab, whatever, versus I don't always know if they'll understand what I'm talking about if I use an emoji. So I'll click in there, and I'm just going to show you this one. I need to go find my videos for tomorrow. But notice that, again, I'm using a simple icon. I have very simple instructions here. In your science notebook, record the key parts of making scientific observations. And even though I'm dealing with 8th, 7th, and 6th graders, this is a video that was designed for 5th and 4th graders, but it does it well. And so I use it. There's my click next button. Same thing as before. Okay, so I'll come back and change these later. Encouragement, if you're going to put a video, click to the right of it, and then you can center it. And I'll just show you that real quick. If things want to load today. All right, and so right here you see that it fills up the entire space. So you have to actually click to the side of it, and that is already aligned center, so I can align it left, I can align it right. I don't like that. And so let's go ahead and put it back in the center, and just like that. It just makes it easier to find and read. Oftentimes, if I have a very small amount of content, I will actually just do a centered approach to just keep the content in the center, because then when I decrease, you can see it all flows together pretty nicely. Instead of having some content over here and some content over here, you want to limit how much their eyes have to move to get to what you're trying to have them do. And then one more thing that I like doing is a reading. And so I think they'll have about a 15-minute independent time before about a 20-minute Zoom time tomorrow. And so that totally gives them enough time to watch a video and do a short reading. So I'm going to come up here to where that last time I did a reading, which was asking good questions. Again, I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to drag it down, and it goes right there. And so notice that I'm chunking the content so that they only have to consume a little bit at a time. They know what they're doing. And so here we're reading how to draw conclusions. Cannot spell that word tonight. How to draw conclusions. Notice it kept the indent level, so it's already there. None of these are published. And I'm just going to show you this one. I need to go find my reading for tomorrow as well. Same thing though. I'm using a reading icon indicating what they're doing. I always keep those centered. Sometimes I would put them to the left of my titles if I had a bunch of content on a page, but I've gone away from that as I've noticed that the students, when there's a lot of content, they're skipping down. And so I've gone back to chunking my content. And you really just got to see what your students are capable of. My 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, though, you give them a long bit of content, they'll just ignore most of it and go to the part where they're supposed to do something for a grade. And so I find that if I chunk it into smaller pieces, then still with good headings, still with good clear directions, then they are more likely to pay attention. So notice some styling things here though. I always use subheadings. So I think these are either heading number 2 or heading number 3. But I always use subheadings because it's going to help me organize the content. When you're reading something online, your eyes need to be able to quickly find where you're at and then flow. And what I mean by that is that I actually encourage people to break some paragraphs up into multiple paragraphs, even if it's not good grammar, even if it's not good writing. But just because if you have a very long paragraph, it's very hard to read. And so chunking that content to make it a little bit easier to read. And so you notice here, I've got the instructions, read and write down a few notes, but then here's my reading. And it's a fairly short reading for this one, because we're going to go over this and I don't need them to do a huge reading, but this, I copied this from a page, and I failed on this is that I didn't put my citation. I'll go back and do that. But often what I'll do is I will just copy from a website, throw a citation link to that, and that way I can use it. And so I need to find my content for tomorrow for drawing good conclusions and change that. The last thing that I would do is actually set up my live together or my asynchronous. It's a Friday, so I'm not going to give them homework to do over the weekend. I hated that as a student, and I imagine they hate that as well. One tool that I really like is the app, or whatever you call it, app, awwapp.com. And what it is it's a whiteboard, and you can use free version. I pay for it so that it's only, I think it's like $9 a month, because it gives me a lot more functionality, but it allows me to draw right here. So when I am doing a Zoom lecture or whatever, or we're having a discussion, I'm drawing on it. And so here's an example of today's. This was earlier today. We're learning how to observe, and so we're looking at it. And so you can see, got that whiteboard symbol, and I just let them know we'll be using this whiteboard to learn how to make observations. And you can view but you can't edit it. Now that's super important, because my 6th graders took advantage of me when I had accidentally set this right here to where I allow everyone to edit, and they had gone ahead to the next page during a live session, and they were drawing all over it. They got a Mr. B scolding, but it's good to go. But notice here I was able to throw an image on, and then I could just write on the whiteboard just as the discussion goes. It's not a straight PowerPoint and that kind of thing, and you can have multiple pages, and that kind of thing. So all I have to do is go and add the new whiteboard for this lesson, and then I'm good to go. One thing I might do that I haven't done yet in this one is I might use an exit ticket. And so an exit ticket that I love is just using a simple quiz. And so to do that, I'm just going to come up here to plus, and I'm going to add quiz, and I'm going to go to new quiz, and I'm just going to say 1.4 exit ticket. And I love using quizzes for exit tickets because they're self-graded. And again, as much that you can decrease the time that you're doing something, then you're solid. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the live together, because I'll have them do this right before the end of our Zoom session. I'll just say, hey, go and do it. But this could also be an asynchronous thing. With going into the exit ticket, I only use, and look at that, I made a mistake because this is old quizzes. Goodbye, not using you. And so to do a new quiz, I actually have to go to quizzes first. And so go up to quiz. And because I've already set my engine as the new quiz tool, then I can do it here. And this is 1.4 exit ticket. How to draw conclusions. And this is just going to be 1 point because you're either going to get it or you're not. And they can do it as many times as they want. Whatever. Save. You got to put due date. And so tomorrow, it'll be tomorrow night. Okay. But notice I won't publish that until actually during our live session. During our live session, I'll just click publish. And so on here on the exit ticket, I will just have a single question. It's almost always a graded or a self-graded question, so that they can quickly know whether they got it right or wrong. So a multiple choice, hotspot, fill in the blank, that kind of thing. But I'll come back here and do this later. Okay. So now that I have it here, I just got to get into my module. And plus, assignments are interesting. I mean, new quizzes are interesting because they actually go into the assignment page or whatever, because it uses an external tool. I'm going to go ahead and put my indent there so that it's easy to find. And then right there. Now, because we're in this first 2 weeks of school, my 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are all doing the same thing. And so the last thing I would do is, after I've got this all set up, is actually come over here, click copy to, and type in my next, my other class, and copy it directly to that course, 7th grade science. And then the cool thing is that you can actually choose where it goes. It's going there. It's going to go after the Friday. And then I'd hit copy, and it's going to send it right there. And so even if you're not using the exact same content, if you have a certain lesson that I like the way that I've designed this particular page or something like that, it's super easy to then go in and to copy it over to another course, copy it over to another course, and then change it real fast. Okay, so this right here, I don't know how long this video has been going. We've been doing it for probably 10-15 minutes already, because I'm teaching you through it, but that took a few minutes. But I'm serious that because I follow a similar flow every time, and I can change what I want to do on each lesson, sure, but because I follow a similar flow, it takes me about 10 minutes to get these pages set up, assuming I have my content ready. If I know what reading I'm doing, what video I'm doing, it really only takes me about 10 minutes to do this part, and it shouldn't take you very long. You got to figure out what your flow is and then repeat that flow. And the lovely thing is that when you have a flow, students pick up on your flow, and then they feel more confident. When I read a textbook, I know that the headings mean this, the questions are there, I can find the answers in the back of the book, whatever. They have a flow. So what's your flow? Figure it out. Have a consistency. It's going to make everything a lot easier. This has been, we're going to put me over here now. I changed my office a bit. This has been the Canvas tutorial show as we look at my personal workflow. I appreciate you sticking around with me if you've gotten to this point. If you don't already, hit that follow button so that you get every new episode. I'm not posting as often right now just because we're teaching and we're leading and everything else like that, but there's still a lot of good content that I want to come out with. If you haven't joined the Canvas tutorials show community on Facebook, where you can post your questions, help other people, you should. And as always, if this content was helpful to you, please share it out. Hit that share button, throw in some colleagues' names, and share. Cheers.